Hi everyone, this is Nathan. Sorry for my voice, I'm still a bit sick, but I guess it's the season. Happy New Year, by the way. I thought I'd take you through the demo I made for Strata Sampling latest library, PRIMAL Orchestra, which is a collection of instruments typically related to medieval or Nordic colors, and also some more traditional sections like the strings here, but played in a particular way. So first thing I should note about the demo is, as you can see, I didn't use any effects other than my reverbs and that little EQ that is just cutting some subs from the drone patch. But other than that, it's the sound of the library by itself. Yeah, every sound in the demo comes from PRIMAL. Okay, let's listen to the track first. One of the first things I do on these kinds of project is try to find a vibe or a mood with one or a couple instruments, and on this track it all started with this patch. I liked the sound of it, but found the initial impact to be a bit loud for my taste, and was worried the percussive elements could interfere with my own rhythm, so I took the percussive layer out. Next, I started with this section, we'll call it B, since I like having a more fleshed out section before deciding where it will go and what transition could come before or after. For this one, I started with the percussions. As a baseline, I used this loop that I liked, so let's hear the full version of the loop, if you will. You can actually play the separate sections individually, so I only kept the low parts and the high drums with the shakers. Next, I added my own rhythm by building my own patch in the Perc Extreme Builder, where you can choose which sounds you want on which part of the keyboard, coming from a large selection of drum ensembles. This is how it sounds on its own. I also added stomps to get larger impacts, along with some vocal risers and a loop of vocal rhythms as well. Next, I started looking at some ethnic loops with the troll arpa. I used this one, and here we'll see a cool feature of the library with the loops. As you can see, when I change notes, it doesn't start the loop over again, it keeps the loops going. The results are better in this kind of cases if you untick the release samples, because otherwise it plays over the new note, but we'll see how it's very useful to have the option to turn it on and off on the fly. I also added this guitar loop to have some more rhythm, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Let's look at the strings now. The demo is in C#, and as you might know, most double basses and celli don't go under C unless they are detuning the instruments, and the one in this library can go all the way down to A. So I wanted to feature those low notes. That's why I put the track in C#. The violas are playing rhythm with the staccatissimo articulation. And finally, we have the caval flute played with the voice. I use this articulation that plays pre-recorded bends and timed it to have that bit of extra energy there. And just for fun, because I'm using quite a large reverb on some of these, here's how this section sounds without any reverbs, just the library out of the box. Okay, let's take a quick look at the intro, or let's call it section A. Because I took out the initial impact in the drone, I replaced it by one of the booms from the basement tubes patch, which sounds quieter and felt more appropriate for the beginning. Because I wanted to have a more of an atmospheric start, I had to use something less dark than the next section, so I used this harmonics from the shell patch, which is a custom instrument from the library. I also brought back the caval flute, but instead of using the recorded bends, I created my own by playing the basic articulation and using the pitch bend and the large reverb. And finally, I wanted to introduce the rhythm, so I added the low drum element from the percussion loops and this didgeridoo loop. There are two little elements that I added to complete the transition with the next section. One is an FX from the Aeolian harp patch, and the other is Ricochet from the bass flute patch. I also added some rolls from the percussion patch, because you can play for each drum a regular hit, a flam, and a roll controlled by the mod wheel, just like this one. Okay, next I wanted a little bridge before starting an even more intense section, which we'll call section C. So I brought back the drum loop, the didgeridoo, and the shell harmonics. I also added this loop from the solo double bass patch to add more drive and grit. In order to keep the syncopated feel going, I also added the speeds from the celli patch, because yes, there are also speeds for all the string sections. Now for the main melodic elements. I went with two instruments, one being the shell again, but not the harmonics this time, and the other being the rusty saw, another custom instrument from the library. Here's how they sound together. may have noticed I've pitched down the Rusty Saw because it was better in terms of range for my lines, but also because it easily brings a darker color that I really liked on this section. I kept the bending caval calls going, blending the one with the pitch bend and the one with the already recorded bends. Now we're in the transition to the last section, which we call D. I decided to break things up with 4-bar or 3/4, which was also an opportunity to showcase how the library can do 3/4 loops as well. Here are the troll harpa and the guitar loop. Now the percussion loop. And over that, I added some more percussions and some additional hits from the basement tubes. And now it's time for the intense section, which we call E. I actually started this one with the strings, so here's how they sound by themselves. As you can hear, the violins and violas are playing very low and they sound very gritty, which was exactly the kind of sound I was searching for in this part. I also added the Rusty Saw doubling the double bass to give a bit more bass on this ending. Next, with the percussions, I kept the same loop, but this time I played the more intense variation of the loop. Keeping once again only the low drums and the high elements. Then of course I completed all that with the percussion patch, adding more and more layers as we get close to the ending. To add more intensity, I also brought back the vocal rhythm. Here they are alternating between two loops, and notice how the release samples play at the end of each, which gives a pretty cool punctuation. And finally I added those ethnic loops, adding the tambura to the guitar and the troll harpa. For the ending, I wanted something that would ring out, but here was my issue at the start. Here's how it sounds by ringing with all the notes. As you can hear, it sounds a bit too suspensive and rich, and I wanted something more conclusive. So I had the idea of adding the release sample using a CC only at that point, making the ringing notes only be these ones, and using the long release. and finally the outro, which we call F. Here I kept it simple by bringing back a final caval bend and 2 bass flute ricochet. I also kept the percussions going a bit softer along with the breathing, stopping right on time with the release sample. Anyway, I hope this video was useful. Please let me know what you thought of it, or if you have any questions in the comments. I'll leave links for the library in the description, as well as the MIDI for my demo, if that can be of any help to you. And I guess I'll see you in the next video, whenever it will be. Bye!